Welcome everyone to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money in crypto, you're looking for a seasoned investor, take on the crypto market, continue to join us. Today I have Dr. Profit, he is not joining us, the Doctor of Stuff joining us so that we can talk about what is going on with OMI. Its price looks like it's falling off a cliff. Am I worried? Am I panic selling? There are a lot of people out there panic selling. What do I think about this? This isn't my first bear market. This is my second. Is there anything I can learn from this? Prior to this, I was in other types of not crypto, but other types of investments. What did I do when everything was looking bad and there was blood in the streets? Well, you probably even heard the saying. It might give you a clue at what my overall thoughts are. Let's go ahead and welcome our special of guests. Give him a big round of applause. Doctor of Stuff.
Hey, what is up, Rain? How you doing?
Fantastic. So good to have you join me. And we figured out how to stream to both our channels at the same time. So You might be watching this on my channel. You might be watching this on Doctor of Stuff channel. If you're really cool, you're somehow watching it on both. JSolo9 says, I've missed the rains this week. Yes, we had big news this week with the SEC. Let me differentiate. Gary Gensler at the SEC attacking everything crypto in a bid to shut down crypto. Now, I did negotiations for a long time, and I know we're here to talk about OMI. I just want to take a second to address the elephant in the room, which is the SEC trying to shut down crypto. What I found in negotiations is anytime the other side's stories didn't add up, it's because they weren't telling you the real reason. So why was Gary Gensler of 5 years ago saying that only maybe 25% of the crypto market was a security? Just the other day, he said every altcoin and stuff is a security. Why did that change? Well, good question. Why did that change, Gary? Why? What changed your mind? Who changed your mind? New information, like you didn't know what the hell you were talking about before and you were a complete idiot, though you were getting paid by Harvard a bunch of money to teach students there and you didn't know what you were talking about then? Probably wasn't that. Probably was something else. So, Gary, why did you change your mind? Who changed your mind? What did they offer you? What did they give you? Why are you so different than some of the other SEC commissioners? In your opinion, so vastly different than theirs? Questions that, an honest reporter or journalist would ask you. Questions you probably won't be asked. Let's get over and let's look at OMI. Let's look at what's going on with the price action. I know with the general market being down, but even more than that, fair to say, Doctor, that OMI's price has gotten absolutely savaged, even more than most altcoins.
I mean, if you're looking at it from like the top of the market, yeah, absolutely, right? When it got to like 1.4 cents, it is down significantly from that. That being said, though, I mean, OMI is still a top 200 cryptocurrency, right? Out of the tens of thousands of different coins that there are, it's a top 200 coin. So even with that savage pricing, it's still relevant if you're looking at that. I mean, it starts to drop into the 300, 400 token range, then that's really, really worrisome. But the fact that even with all this savagery that's happened to the token, it's still in the top 200, I think says something. And especially since it's not on very many exchanges, like that's another thing that I think is extremely important to think about. And this is what I think, Rain, is so important for people to realize. That there's so many people who OMI is their first and potentially their only token that they've ever invested in. And so they hear a lot of personalities who are great showmen, right? They got great showmanship. Maybe they have a lot of subs on their channels, but they're not investors, right? They're YouTubers. And then you have some investors who are YouTubers, and then YouTubers who are not investors. And so I pay a lot of attention when I watch those channels, just anyone, any type of quote unquote influencer in the spaces, have they been successful before at what they're talking about? And so many of them have not, or they make their money not off of these investments, but off the YouTube channel themselves. And so it's just clickbait, right? And they're going to be sensationalists, and they're going to say things that get people riled up, because that's what gets the views, and that's what gets them the actual money, because they don't make money on investments. But I'm really excited to talk to you about OMI and VeVe, and just kind of the thoughts, and a more, like you say, a seasoned investor's take, right? Like your take in the crypto markets. You have been around for a long time, and I've definitely been around in investing for quite some time, not in crypto as long as you, but because of that investor's mindset, a lot more patient with things.
Yeah, you make some good points. Funny, we were talking beforehand about certain personalities, right, that are just like a ship without their rudder, because they don't know investment cycles. They don't really understand it. They're just new to this. Not only are they newer to crypto, they came in the bull market, right? Started a YouTube channel and built a following. So people think that because they have a YouTube channel, they know what they're talking about. And sometimes the loudest voices get heard a lot, but that doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. And it doesn't mean they're not smart. They're just inexperienced is all. And inexperience gets replaced by experience over long periods of time. It's not a quick fix. And so they're just new to these cycles. This is their first cycle. This is their first crypto winter. Their ship has lost their rudder completely, and they're just kind of being thrown about. And you see a lot of that. And I saw that a lot last bear market. And I saw a lot of people acting stupid. Why? Well, bear markets are pretty savage. And if you haven't been through them, you don't really understand proper expectations. It helped that prior to crypto, I had been an investor in real estate and other things. And so I had seen bull markets and bear markets and what bear markets felt like. So though I made some big mistakes when I first came into crypto during a bull market, thinking that the same rules of investment cycle didn't apply, as I got in later, like October 2017, and experienced some tremendous gains for the next couple months, and then some tremendous pullbacks, only to find that my investment positions were lower than what I had put in to begin with. And then I thought, wow, pretty savage how big the pullbacks can be. And then they kept going lower. I started to study the cycles and realized this isn't different than other investments. It has cycles too. So at least it helped me recognize that. So then I could draw back to some experience on what the bear market might be like. And during that bear market, I took it as an opportunity to research, identify good projects that were overflooded, and buy them and dollar cost average in. And it worked out extremely well. Not everything that I put money in did amazing, but a lot of it did, enough that it made life-changing gains in just one full cycle. I'm excited for where this next cycle is going to go, because a lot of the audience is pretty new at this, and they haven't experienced their first massive run yet. They caught part of what happened March 2021, but they didn't have a whole bunch of placements in place before that. So this will be their first real bull run.
So I got a question for you, Rain, to kind of give, NFT hero over here saying, give some people some hope. Okay, we have some of the biggest, two of the biggest VeVe YouTubers, we'll say, out there, right? Like, trash on VeVe quite a bit. One is basically, sold out, said Quid was, because Quid paid him, and then another project paid him. And so, sure, like, they're going to talk about this project and how great it is, as long as they're getting paid. Which, again, that's so important to peel back the layers and say, what's the motive behind what these YouTubers or these influencers are saying, right? Are they over leveraged? That's a fair question, right? Are there some people who are just like, I got to talk up my bags because I'm so over leveraged, that I'm panicking here, right? And that's a real thing. There are people, unfortunately, who are over leveraged, but I think that term gets used a little bit too much. Where like over leveraged is you've spent more money, like you've gone into debt, right? Like that you can't pay back, or it's very difficult to pay back, to buy something, right? That's different. Because we got Jordan Riz here, right? He talked about remortgaging his house, and people freaked out about that. Again, that's not something that I would do personally, but if he's bought into that and he has over 200 million OMI, and he can afford those payments, that's still not over leverage. Like the over leverage is where you start, like you're like, if something happens, if OMI goes down again, I'm not going to be able to make my rent payment, right? Like that's where people start panicking, and then they're trying to do anything to pump their bags because they need exit liquidity. So there's that, right? But then there's other people who are just like, well, I need the money from YouTube views, so I'm going to just talk about things. I'm going to say whatever I can. But is there credibility there, right? Is there real credibility, and what are they saying? Does it make sense? And so where I'm going with this, Rain, is right now we have a lot of people in the space that are just crapping on VeVe, crapping on the token. And has this happened before in the past with tokens where people were just crapping, but major YouTubers, right? Much bigger than some of these other VeVe YouTubers, right? And their audiences that were crapping on certain projects. And what were your thoughts on that? Did it happen? Were they right? What was their background, or what were their motives when they were talking crap on these tokens? Give some people like a little bit of background as to, has this type of thing happened before? What's happening to VeVe, and what happened since?
So back in 2020, which really was a second bottom in the bear market. There was a bottom in early 2019, so late 2018, and then a second big bottom happened in 2020. And I remember Cardano at the time. So this project, and everyone knows Cardano now is this huge, massive giant, but it wasn't the case back then. They didn't even have a test net out. They didn't have their mainnet live nor their test net. And not only that, there was a big lawsuit going on because they were trying to kick out the guy, the head of, I forget the name. It was the Cardano organization or something. They'd put somebody in there and he wasn't really doing anything and receiving pay. And they were trying to get him out and he didn't want to get out. And so that was a big thing, and their test net was delayed, and oh my gosh, and these delays, and when are they going to get it together? And everybody on YouTube was calling it Cardaleno. And so yeah, you guys know how this story ends because you've seen the charts on Cardano, so you don't really realize how much it felt like what's going on with OMI now. But having experienced day by day what Cardano felt like during that time, and being one of the rare people that just doubled down on Cardano and doubled down, and like the cheaper it got, that I just kept buying because I was like, man, this is like Christmas. And people were like, you're an idiot. Tezos is the thing. Look at Tezos. It just 10x. Why are you buying stupid Cardano? It just keeps going down. You should be buying Tezos. They have staking live. And I'd be like, well, tell me what Tezos does. Well, I don't know, but it's got staking live. You don't know? You don't know? And it just went 10x. So let me get this right. You want me to sell something that's super cheap while it's super cheap and I'm underwater on it so I can buy something that already 10x because what? You think it's just going to keep going up? Well, yeah, its market cap is 3 or 4x over Cardano. Exactly. Why the hell would I sell cheap to buy into something expensive? Sounds like the opposite of what I should be doing. If I had any Tezos, which I don't know what it does either, why would I even have it? I'd be selling it right now to buy more Cardano. And they literally didn't grasp that concept. It was like foreign to them. And I was like, how is this foreign to them? What do they not understand about this equation? So Cardano's delayed. So what? They took the time to build things better. Things are looking good operationally. This lawsuit thing will get figured out. everything will be fine. In fact, I'm seeing all this substance there. It'll be fine. And you know what? Cardano got cheaper, went all the way to 1.7 cents at the bottom, which was so crazy low. Do you realize it went 200x from that 1.7 cents? 200x. Holy frick. Haven't heard from those Tezos people. They have nothing to say. Tezos now, I don't know that their market cap went up very much during the bull market compared to where it was back then. From the point everyone was telling and all the YouTubers were covering, oh, Tezos is the greatest thing. Those idiots, they're still holding on to their Cardano. They're stupid. No, I wasn't just holding on to my Cardano. I was buying more. Why? Because most YouTubers don't understand investment. They understand showmanship, and that's okay. But why would I give them credibility like they know what they're talking about when they're just good at getting viewers, but they're not good investors? Note that most YouTubers are not good investors. Even if they're in the crypto space, they're just not. I know a few that have made themselves super rich from their investments. I'm talking about real investments, the kind of investments everyone can participate in, not the extra backroom deals that they got access to because of their YouTube channels. When they get really big, they get sweetheart gifts of like, oh yeah, we'll let you put in 170,000 in this pre-sale. That's almost a sure thing. And then they make $5 million on that deal. Why? Because they got access to something nobody else had access to. Mm-hmm. So they make a whole bunch of money and like, I'm such a smart investor. And it's like, no, you just got the backstage pass access. You're not a smart investor. Anyone would have taken that investment. And then they make a lot from their YouTube channel. But few are smart investors because they're new at this. There's one exception with that. Crypto, freaking genius. Billionaire in 7 years, not from his YouTube channel at all. Like maybe he's made like this much of that from his YouTube channel, but brilliant investor.
Yeah, I want to say it's like when people talk about his YouTube channel or even like referrals, I mean, one of the biggest people in the space, right, is Mr. Beast. And that guy maybe makes like, I'm trying to look, like it's like 20 something million a year, or, you know, from YouTube. And that's got to be with like partnerships. Like, I don't know. You're not going to become a billionaire in as quickly as he did from YouTube. But so here's something, Harris, like I'm going to address this question, Rain, if that's okay. He talks about like Cardano being tagged as a security by the SEC. Do you want to pull that up real quick? It's just at the bottom, like third from the bottom of the chat.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, okay. So here's the thing. Basically, Gensler has come out now and said, according to the CEO of Coinbase, that everything but Bitcoin is basically a security, right? I think that the CFTC is going to push back a little bit on that and say quite a bit of these tokens are commodities. But on top of that, I mean, okay, here's the thing. At one point in time, could some of these have met the definition via the Howey test of being a security with the ICO? Yeah, like there's probably a good argument for that. But since then, has it changed and morphed to where it's more of a commodity, or it's not even a security anymore, right? And I think that's what it's going to take some time. But the SEC has been in a lawsuit with XRP for how many years, right? How many years has it been? And the SEC hasn't been able to win that case. And if they, I think what might happen is this, that they might say, hey, when you did your raising, maybe that portion of it, like you were security then, but however, it's morphed and now it's not. And if that happens, then the SEC is going to lose all of these other lawsuits. Like everything is going to change, right? But although it hurts crypto right now, or the crypto is down because of it, once there's clarity, I think that there's going to be a lot of tokens that are going to rebound. And here's the reason why. Even if some of them are considered, actually, the lawsuit goes through and it's called a security. That's not the end of the world for a token, right? It just means that there's financial reporting that they have to do, and they'll probably have to pay a fine. And then they can move on. So Cardano, they have enough money. They could pay those fines and they could start the financial reporting. It would be kind of difficult, but it's something that they could implement. Same with VeVe, right? If the OMI token were somehow to be declared a security, it's not like it's game over for OMI at that point in time. Again, it would be a fine, and then they would have to do financial reporting, just like all of these other public companies are doing. That's it. So it's not like it's the death knell, and all of a sudden VeVe and OMI, like, it's dead. It's just, it's going to cost money with the compliance. But I look at OMI and the things that they are doing. They are being very cautious with this token, and it's intentional. I guarantee you they are talking to securities attorneys and saying, hey, how do we structure this? What are the things? So with staking, right? They're not staking. You're not earning more OMI when you stake, right? You're earning the rights to gain NFTs, which is completely different when you look at the Howey test as to what that is. And it's structured that way intentionally. So with Cardano, like I'm still buying Cardano. Like, there's projects on Cardano that I need ADA for. And I think that that's going to be the case going forward. So I don't think that Cardano is going away anytime soon. And on top of that, like, it could be years, like we're seeing with XRP, it could be years and years and years and years while this is in a lawsuit where people will be able to use ADA. Maybe not on some US exchanges, but you can use decentralized exchanges and still utilize it. So very long answer there, Harish, but there you go.
Yeah, along the lines, I think it's pretty clear that the SEC, or Gensler in particular, is acting in bad faith. And here's the reason. Coinbase, them suing Coinbase is a complete idiot move unless there's something I don't understand. Because Coinbase has spent significant funds going to the SEC and said, give us clarity, give us clarity, give us clarity. What is the speed limit here? What is the speed limit here? What is the speed limit here? Oh, I'm so busy. I can't take your call. Oh, I can't meet with you. Oh, I'm so busy. I don't know what I'm so busy doing. Oh, you know what he's so busy doing? Meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried instead of Coinbase. 13 times is what's reported. 13. He's admitted to 3, but it's like 13 times. He's also meeting with people that aren't on his official schedule. So if you met with him 13 times, the biggest fraud in crypto, but he just can't find the time to meet with Coinbase. Does that mean if you don't donate billions of dollars to Democrats, you can't get a meeting with Gensler? Because that's what would be suggested here. So they're meeting with him saying, what's the speed limit? Or they're trying to get their information. What's the speed limit? What's the speed limit? All of a sudden, cop pulls behind you, turns on the sirens, pulls you over. Oh my gosh, sir, you were speeding. You were doing 70, and I don't know what the speed limit is here, but you're in violation of speeding too fast, and I'm taking you to court. Well, here's the good thing. That goes to court. And the judge is going to say, oh, they tried for 18 months to say, what's the speed limit? What's the speed limit? You just couldn't find time in your schedule to meet with them, to sit down, tell them, to give them clarity. I think it's abundantly clear what the speed limit is. Okay, is ETH the security? Well, I don't know. I can't say. So you can't even say if ETH is a security, you can't tell us why it is or why it isn't. And you think everyone's supposed to know what a security is? And the judge is going to be like, how is anybody in this market supposed to know what's a security and not a security when you purposely have obfuscated everything? Because he's not trying to act in good faith here. He's trying to shut down crypto. He's not trying to provide, he's purposely not providing clarity because he wants it to be unclear so that then he can pull you over for speeding. Why? Because he doesn't want this space to exist. Now, the bigger question is, why does he not want this space to exist? And we can all have assumptions on that. The truth is we don't really know. They're just assumptions, but it's clear by his actions that he doesn't want this space to exist. In fact, just the other day, he came out and he was like, well, we have the digital dollar. Keep in mind, this is a guy that was teaching the blockchain class at Harvard. This is a guy that said, Algorand is amazing. You should look at what Algorand's doing. It's so amazing. And then all of a sudden, one day, just 2 days ago or 3 days ago, We have the digital dollar. We don't need anything else. We have a digital yen, and we don't need anything else. We have a digital euro. We don't need cryptocurrencies. Like, who is up there pulling your strings like the little puppet you are? I mean, clearly you're a little puppet. I can only guess. I don't know who he's talking to, who's giving him these orders, and why he doesn't say, you want me to say that? You know, they have me on video saying total contrary stuff to that. Okay, well, the press will just run with it anyway. Okay, I'll just say it because that's what you want me to say, and the press, they'll cover for us, and But any fair-minded judge is going to be like, they came to you over and over again to get clarity. You wouldn't tell them. Now you're suing them. You're acting in bad faith. And throw that out on its ass because that's where it belongs. It's total bogus. And that's why you have a judge, because if a cop pulled you over and there was no posted speed limit signs, guess what they have to do? Throw it out. Unless you're not articulate enough to make the argument, then you might lose. But I'm pretty sure Coinbase is articulate enough to make the argument. Binance is articulate enough to make the argument. Cardano, they're really stretching it with Cardano, really stretching it. Cardano went to the ends of the earth, literally went to Japan, which at the time was the toughest registration process. So they could raise their funds out of Japan and not the US so that they wouldn't be declared a security at some point. And so they really went to great lengths. And so to come in and say they're a security now, bad faith. I mean, that's what all this screams is, complete bad faith. Now, if they had been putting out guidelines for 24 months and here's the clarity, and everyone was just doing what they wanted to anyway, there would be some problems here. But if the SEC has been putting out all the guidance for the last 24 months, I don't know why anybody in the world hasn't seen it yet. They didn't put it out, and they didn't want to.
Yeah, well, so here's the irony in all of this, right? So in 2019, the SEC approved Coinbase's initial public offering, right? Like, to sell stock. Like, they went through everything that Coinbase was doing, including that staking stuff that they then said when Gensler came on board that they couldn't do. Oh, and by the way, you realize that the U.S. has been selling the Bitcoin, their Bitcoin that the FBI obtains or anything like that, right? When they confiscate, they've been selling that on Coinbase. Like, the irony that it's just like, the SEC is going after something, and the U.S. government itself is actually selling Bitcoin on Coinbase is just hilarious to me. So yeah, like there's a lot of big questions around that, right? Like, who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, but. There's a comment there. It depends on who owns the judge. That's true. But you know what? The funds are there to take this all the way to the Supreme Court. Yep. When you have that, then, there's going to be judges on both sides. And we're starting to see, unfortunately, and I wish that wasn't, like, that there's this partisanship, right? Like, that there's a certain political party that is starting to be pro-crypto, while one other party is less like anti-crypto, right? Elizabeth Warren and her anti-crypto squad, and the narrative that we're seeing, right, and what we've heard this from Gensler, from Elizabeth Warren, and others, is that it's all of the bad actors are in crypto, right? Like, all of these bad people are in crypto, when honestly, like, the amount of money that's thrown around through crypto is like 0.001% compared to, like, fiat, right? Where actually money laundering and like cash through banks actually happens. But it's just catchy, these buzzwords that they can get where the general public is like, oh yeah, okay, like, oh, crypto must be bad, right? And they're trying to talk the layman into it. But this is where, like, I'm calling my congressman and I'm saying this is ridiculous that the SEC is doing these things. Like, I want you to know that as your constituent, I am very concerned about this. Crypto is actually a way to help the unbanked. Like, and I go through some, like, logical, like, arguments, right? So where they can hear and be like, okay, there are actually, like, educated people in this space who aren't bad actors, who utilize this technology, right, for a purpose. And like, everyone should be doing that. Everyone should be calling their congressmen, their senators, and saying, like, hey, I'm really concerned about the SEC overstepping like there's regulatory authority, and that was talked about a lot in that grilling of Gensler, right, when he went to Congress. So
Yeah, I think they're vastly overstepping. And thank goodness they don't even have the whole of the Democrat Party in this anti-crypto gang that they're putting together. And I remember back to the internet really taking off, and there were some Congress people and senators that were very anti-internet because, oh my gosh, it's just a place of bad actors where counterfeit stuff is sold, and porn and whatever else, I can't remember, drug deals happen. And so like anybody who's on the internet is just they're a bad actor. And it wasn't able to stop the internet. So crypto is allowing the next evolution of what the internet can do and unlocking that next evolution. And so Gensler knows he's being very very specific to try to sell a narrative when he's like, we have a US dollar, we don't need a digital currency, because it's not just about currency, even though they're called cryptocurrencies. It's an allowing functionality and fundraising and other things that is completely apart from like trying to replace the dollar. Yeah, Bitcoin has a good chance of replacing the US dollar. Why? Well, nobody wants it to have to replace the US dollar. It's because the US dollar is being so misused. That's why it even has a chance. Nobody's rooting really for that to happen. They're just rooting for the opponent because recognizing what is happening with the US dollar and how it's being overprinted and more money being printed and spent and this huge deficit building up. And they're like, I know what this adds up to. And so I'm looking for an alternative. But most of cryptocurrency, like blockchain 1.0 was Bitcoin. Blockchain 2.0 allowed smart contracts, and smart contracts are changing what the internet can do, the capabilities of what video games can do, this idea of decentralized finance, what can happen. One of the projects I'm really big on called Bumper, that is allowing a new way of protecting your upside or protecting against big downside swings. That they recently released a report on how it's more efficient than the model from 50 years ago that led to pricing of options. And if, they'll be launching their mainnet in the coming months. And if it proves to be true, that will change a $14 trillion industry. And so it's not about replacing a digital dollar. And he knows that. He's just trying to sell a narrative. And, well, I'd say it's frustrating to watch. I guess I'm not too frustrated because I don't know how these lawsuits are going to get past fair-minded judges. And there's so many of them that I just can't see. And even if they can get the early courts to rule with them, which is a big if, how are they going to get the appeals courts and then the Supreme Court to stick with it? And my guess is Gary Gensler has done his job, and he's going to get promoted out of there and replaced maybe in the Treasury side or something, because he's been a good little soldier for whoever is giving those orders out. I'm really not sure. I wish I did know. I just have some guesses, but they're just guesses. Going through this, it's like, well, there's a reason they say that first they laugh or ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win, because most technologies go through this. And so it's not like we're going through anything different. This is just what happens with new technology. And existing technology doesn't want to see the new technology happen. And guess who has the politicians in their pocketbook? Existing technology. They have the relationships with a lot of the existing people. This is why the automobile industry didn't take off in New York. Why? Because horse and buggies and horse breeders and carriage makers, they had all the politicians in New York in their payroll. And even though New York was the industrious place, they passed laws in New York that you couldn't drive a horseless carriage through New York without somebody walking in front of you waving flags. Why? Because these are hurting people. People are getting run over by these horseless carriages called cars, as if they didn't get run over by horses all the time. It was an absurd argument. So all the car manufacturers, where'd they go? They went to Michigan, in Detroit. And that's why New York isn't a major manufacturing zone. So what Gary Gensler is saying, go somewhere else. We don't want any money here. We want to keep control over all the existing technology, and they're giving us all this money. And the U.S. does not want to participate in this wealth creation. And so we're going to make every other country rich because we're going to opt out of crypto. And guess what? There's going to be people in the U.S. that are going to be like, F you, Gensler. No, we want crypto to happen here. And you're hearing from those congressmen. And guess what? Congressmen are going to hear from their people. And it's not just Republicans who like crypto. There's a lot of Democrats. And so Democrat leaders are going to be hearing from their people. And they're going to be like, Gensler, hey, buddy. Hey, dude, I got to vote against you. I'm sorry. No, I'll lose my seat. I'm not going to do that over you. Sorry, buddy. That's how it goes.
On top of that there's another layer to this, which is pretty substantial, right? And it's the political warfare, like the global political warfare, right? So like the U.S. against China, U.S. against Russia. So Russia just announced some. I'm trying to remember the headline, but basically like kind of opening up crypto a little bit more. And one thing that politicians love is money, right? And if they can figure out how to best regulate crypto and tax crypto, which it's already happening, you better believe that the politicians are going to get on board with crypto. And there is a lot of money, although like that example I gave of like the fiat banking system, right? And it's a very small percentage right now, but they see it growing year over year, right? That compounded annual growth is pretty significant in crypto. And you can't ignore it, and it's not going away. And I think that they're realizing that. And so I think that they're starting to realize that as the U.S. clamps down on it, then China and Russia are going to open it up, right? And all of that money is going to flow to those political adversaries. And I think that that's going to create a lot of political pressure in the United States to take a step back and think again about what they're doing there. So I think that there will, as this kind of flushes out, and again, this is just my guess, but a lot of these are going to be considered commodities and not crypto, or not securities that are beholden to those financial reporting laws. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But so that's the OMI side of things, right? But I definitely want to give some. Oh, okay, you got the charts up. Let's talk about that, and then dive into some of the VeVe stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, let's talk about the OMI price. So, I mean, we're looking at this trend, right? So it was all the way at like 0.8 cents almost. Yeah, 0.8 cents. It's way down at 0.05 cents. So literally down 15/16 from where it was. So it's absolutely gotten savage from the prices it was at back then. And that wasn't even the previous highs. And guess what happens? This is what my rap talks about. This is what so often happens in crypto bear markets is people panic sell out at the bottom. Mm-hmm. It's the craziest thing to me. Like, I've always been a fairly analytical mind, which is great in some senses. Sometimes it's frustrating, but the great side is it's like, wait, don't you recognize the pattern? This is when all these people panic sell out. Why are you letting yourself panic sell out? I mean, that's what the dummies do. We talked about this for forever. So why are you panic selling out? Oh, well, this one's different. This one's just going to go to zero. And it's like, is there information I don't know that like it's really going to go to zero? Because I'm not seeing the information. I'm just seeing the information that people are frustrated. The OMI community is frustrated because things have taken longer than everyone feels they should, i.e. Cardano 2020. If you could rewind time, seeing where Cardano's prices were in 2020 and buy it, this is when 95% of people were panic selling out. And I'm so emotionally exhausted with Cardano. I'm done. I put all this faith in them and they've let me down and they're just a failure and all these delays and I can't take it anymore. I'm done. Well, that's what they were feeling. Isn't that what some of the OMI community is feeling? And I get that feeling. I've been frustrated too at the delays, and I look closely at what was happening on the tech side to see, are they making the right changes so that this can turn around to the right direction? And absolutely, we're seeing evidence of that. Now, we had little bits of evidence that they were hiring a bunch of people, but now we're seeing delivery of that. And so that's what I want to see. I look for lopsided risk, meaning the price is overfunded, things are way, way down. And then I see the right things coming together that will absolutely turn it around, take it the other way. And so it's the perfect storm here where it's like, this is what you're looking for. I look for opportunities like this, that there's no 100% guarantees. And just like people like Babe Ruth were looking for that pitch that was right in their sweet spot. Like, this is the type of stuff I like. And you don't always hit that pitch that is in the sweet spot, but you often do. And it often goes to a home run. And so I'm really excited. You know, if we put this in terms of, on the Wednesday videos, we do buy, wait, or sell. For you and your own investment, not advice to anyone else, because none of this is financial advice. Neither of us are financial advisors. We're both just investors ourselves. For yourself, are you buying more in this zone? Are you waiting, or are you selling?
So one thing, Rain, that I think is important, like I see a lot of technical and analysts looking strictly at the token, and there's a lot to say about technical analysis. Like I would think that it's just fluff, except for that there's so many people doing it that it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where people start trading on this, right? And they have for so long that historically you're like, enough people are looking at the same things I am, that they can be accurate for the most part. Now, most people who do technical analysis don't make a ton of money long term. They can make short-term gains, but like over the long term, there's not a lot of really solid day traders out there that make a lot. There's a statistic out there that Fidelity Investments did an analysis, and they're like, who's our most successful clientele, right? And they did this analysis, and there's this one group that just completely way outperformed everyone else in their entire customer portfolio. And you know who those people were? They were the people who had died. And all of their stocks, they just never sold them. They just held on to them. And they had completely outperformed the market, right? There are going to be certain tokens and things that don't do well, certain stocks that don't do well. But over the long term, if you hold, instead of trying these day trading and trying to time the market, overall, according to Fidelity, their customer base, the ones who did the best, right, were the people who basically held. And they held because they didn't sell because they had passed away. But I think that you can extrapolate that information. When I'm looking at the OMI token, there is a lot of people out there. And look, like NFT Hero, you're saying, I mean, it's hard. Like, there's a lot of things out there. There's people that are whales that are manipulating the price. That happens in stock markets as well, FYI. And we're seeing this strong decline, and it's hard to be bullish at this point. That's true. That's very true. But when I look at the utility of the token that's coming, when it does, it'll be one of the, apart from like blockchain tokens, it will be one of the first real tokens that like is tied to significant IP, where you can use that token to purchase that IP. I'm very interested to really start seeing the burn mechanisms that happen, and the staking that happens as people look to. I think the VeVe is saving up some of their pretty massive IP for these mechanisms to be in place. The MCP, which is coming soon, but the OMI to NFT, that type of stuff, which I think is going to be here this year. So at the end of the year, hopefully, right? According to the team, which there are delays all the time. So I'm not necessarily expecting, but soon, I would say within the next 12 months, that's going to happen. So you're seeing that technical analysis, that drop, right? And this is also corresponding with the bear market that's happening, where all of the other tokens are going down. But it only takes some catalyst, And all of a sudden the sentiment can change, and then people start to FOMO, people start to panic. They want the token, they need the token, they want to buy those bronze tickets, they want to do things, but there's going to be a reason to purchase the token besides just speculation. That's what 98% of the tokens are out there in the crypto market right now, is speculation. So to have a token that won't be tied to speculation anymore, that's also tied to IP. That's that. You have the technical analysis, right? And then you have the fundamental analysis, like what's going on behind the scenes with this company, that I think is going to change that trajectory. So I'm very excited to be buying the token for myself at these prices.
Yeah, by far, I've seen the fundamental analysts make the most amount of money in crypto with longer hold times, 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 and 6 year hold times instead of the traders. And I don't know a lot of traders that successfully make money. Crypto actually does, but he is a freak of nature that way. He actually still invests hugely in altcoins, but he doesn't cover those. He just covers the Bitcoin leverage trading. I don't recommend that because 95% of people who do that lose more than they make. So even amongst a market that's running upwards. So not a big fan of it, just literally buy and holding. I didn't know that statistic about Fidelity's savviest investors were their dead investors, because they literally just were buying and holding because they weren't around to sell. Yeah, that's fitting though. It makes a lot of sense. Let me just check real quick the comments. What is your prediction for the 2025 price? So right now we're in 2023. That would be 2 years away. Doctor of Stuff, what's your thought?
Sorry, what was that? The price prediction for 2025?
Yep.
You know, it's funny. We're in a group, both Rain and I, where we gave some price predictions as to where we thought the token would be, and so far, I am off from what I thought it was. And part of that, we have to base those assumptions off of the latest information we've been given from the team, right? So at the time, I think that we had been told that the VeVe was going to be there at the end of December. That hasn't happened, right? So if I'm gonna base it off of the information I have now from the team, right, like 2025, I think that the VeVe will be there in some way, shape, or form. Now, it's not going to be Ready Player One, right? Like, it's not going to be Fortnite ready. No, like, I don't think that that's where they're going right now. I think it's truly building a community. And this is what I'm excited about. Everyone wants the Ready Player One. To get to Ready Player One, you need to build a community. And so they're building out those social aspects first. But I think that we'll have OMI to NFT. We will have the VeVe in which they will start selling, and we're starting to see that with VeVe, right? That they've dropped some, like with the wait list, that they'll drop some non-IP type stuff that will burn tokens. But the OMI to NFT, I think a lot of the utility behind the token will be there. So by 2025, which let's see, that is 18 months from now, basically.
The beginning of 2025.
Yeah. Are we talking beginning of 2025?
That's the end of 2025. So, gosh, or no, what is it? That's
no. 18 months. 18 months would be the beginning of 2025. 30 months, man. End of 2025. In my opinion, there's no way it's not like at least a penny. Like, and I'm trying to be like conservative there, because if the bull run is happening, I think it's gonna be a lot more than that. But let's just be conservative right now, okay? So it's a 0005 right now. That's to get to a penny. That's a 20x. Now, if you look at what's happened in bull runs in 2025, near the end of 2025, I'm assuming that we're in the bull run. At that point in time, right? And so it could be significantly more than a penny, but we'll have all of the OUP and MCP stuff, which is now going to be the loyalty. We'll have the burns. We'll have major IP. I do believe that there will be marketing. I think that the Apple headsets and things, the VR and the AR, I think that will start to gain more traction. And then people will start looking at AR NFTs and things of the projects that are tied to that. And it could be significantly more than that. But even then, just to 1 cent is almost a 20x at this point. That's significant money. Like I remember I look at my 401k before I got into crypto, and like 1 year my 401k did 16%, and I was like, this is amazing, 16%. I completely outperformed the market. So excited. And now we're talking about multiples, right, of your investment. And that's where I just think, look, I'm trying to be conservative and not go crazy, right, with this $10 OMI stuff. But if you try to be conservative in that and then you underestimate, then you're pleasantly surprised. And so for me, I think it's very easy to reach 1 cent within there, and especially if the burn mechanisms come, they start burning a significant amount of OMI. Then that's going to create FOMO because people are going to want it as it's going down. They're going to be like, I need this to buy the bronze tickets or to do this other stuff with it, to stake it, to earn these other NFTs. And then on top of that, the bull run, man, I mean, it could go bonkers, but I'll say 1 cent and be very conservative with that. What about you, Rain?
Well, I'm hoping it hits $70 so that Jordan in the chat here, it would be worth, what would that be? It would be like 14 billion or 140 billion with a $70 OMI. That would be awesome. Realistically though, $70, I don't see how that happens.
$70. Where'd you get that number? $70.
I just made it up so that like Jordan would be worth like tens of billions of dollars.
That's not
which I'm sure Jordan would invite us all onto his nice yacht that he would surely own by then. So where would it really be? Like, a cent is low, and the hard thing about trying to answer that question is, when is the next bull run really going to happen? Now, it shouldn't happen to 2025, but crypto does what it wants to, not what it should do. And so it might run later this year, it might run next year, or it might run 2025. And so if we're talking the beginning of 2025, then maybe it hasn't even run yet, or maybe it's run and it's over and it's retracing. So trying to nail that number, it's easier to ask, really. And I know at the title, I used a thumb that I already had done about 1 year predictions, 2 year predictions, and 5 year predictions. But like, really, where is it going to go on the next bull run? And that's not easy to guess, but a little bit easier. And so I don't see why it doesn't hit at least 5 cents or 10 cents, if not bigger, but 5 cents is the minimum I think it hits in the next bull run.
So that's 100x.
Yep.
100x.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'll say this. I'm not going to. Most people who really haven't seen what can happen in a bull run, like, that might just sound absolutely crazy to them. It's not crazy. There are tokens that have there's no reason why some of these tokens could go I mean, Dogecoin, right? Like, because Elon Musk talked about Dogecoin, right? Like, it got to like 75 cents. There's no utility. It's a meme coin, right? And like, people, it's funny because people in the crypto space, they just like accept that, oh yeah, well, it's Dogecoin. And it's like, yeah, but Dogecoin didn't used to be Dogecoin, right? And until there was a catalyst that catapulted it out there, right? And it only takes something like that. And people are like, well, you shouldn't compare VeVe to Dogecoin. I'm like, why not? Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. And people don't really understand is that, man, in a bull run, there are things that could just, that could go crazy. But I went conservative intentionally just so that people can get like a thought of like, well, okay, 20x is still like phenomenal. I just can't see how it's not at 1 cent.
Yeah. Jordan, hopefully there's an open invitation. We'll all go on your nice yacht. Like, I'll have a yacht, but if OMI goes like 10,000x, well, your yacht's going to be much, much bigger because your OMI holdings are like 4x over my OMI holdings. So yeah, good job, brother. Really excited for that. I was thinking about like people running around being like, oh, everyone's over leveraged on OMI, and most people I know didn't borrow to buy their OMI. So the person saying that just doesn't even know what they're talking about. They don't know what the word over leverage means. And even, somebody remortgaging their house to buy it, as long as they can afford the payments, They're not over leveraged either. So it's just the wrong statement. Of course, I'm an analytical. I'm like, you use the wrong words here, brother. I'm going to call you on it. Maybe they knew what they were talking about and they just used the wrong words, but over leverage is not the right word. All right. Let's see. My thought is 2-cent OMI next bull run, particularly due to the burns I anticipate will be in place. What Dr. Stuff said was right, and it's the ability of OMI to catch meme coin type traction. Where what was crazy was I invested in the pre-sale of the OMI. I had no idea that like it would catch on the way it did. Think of, okay, so a project like a Comey got people that came in, didn't know anything about crypto. Their first purchase in the crypto space was a Comey. Like that only happens mostly with meme coins. There's only a few other ones that have hit that kind of traction in the past. And so past is a good indicator of the future. It's not a perfect indicator, but a good indicator of the future. And so let's say there's utility for the token on top of just the overall crypto space doing well. And maybe there's some big collectors or big names that start getting behind outside the crypto space, start being like, oh my gosh, you know, these digital comics are amazing, this and that, these collectibles are amazing. And then they start talking about them because they're massive influencers outside the crypto space. And then people start to FOMO in, and then they're going to naturally buy the token associated with it too, which can cause the kind of jumps like you don't even realize that can happen. Like literally Axie Infinity. I was an early investor in Axie Infinity. And I bought land in Axie Infinity that over the next like 18 to 24 months went down in price, like at least 2/3. To put about $4,100 into it. And it hit, you know, like 100x. And by then I sold pretty much most of it. I had a little bit that still went up from there, and then I sold it. So I probably averaged about 100x. Little did I know it would go like 3,000x. That little 4,000 investment could have been $12 million. And I just didn't realize that how when certain things catch steam, the traction they could really, really get. And OMI has the potential for that. Will it? I don't know. But if it goes 100x, I can tell you I'm not selling my whole OMI bag at that price. So I will definitely take profits, and I'll take profits before then too. Let's see what VeVe says. OMI hit 1 cent without buying it. Should be able to do it again. Absolutely agreed. Dr. Stubb was just being very conservative. Better to under promise.
Well, I think that's the point, just real quick, is that without exchanges, I mean, now granted, they didn't have the full circulating supply in circulation at the time, right? When it hit 1.4 cents. So that's meaningful. You got to look at that market cap at the time when it hit 1.4 cents, right? What would the market cap be if it hit 1.4 cents again with all of the tokens in circulation? But I do think that there, at some point in time, we are going to get some major exchanges, right? And VeVe is being careful. I mean, there's that pending lawsuit. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the token might not be on exchanges right now, but eventually it will be on more exchanges. And then what happens there, right? And again, all it takes is that meme coin status, and some of those exchanges are like, geez, we're missing out on all these exchange fees. Let's just list it. So but I know that we said that we were going to talk about OMI and VeVe, and it's been an hour and we haven't even talked about VeVe yet.
A lot of news to catch up on. Let's jump over to VeVe Collectibles, because this is a fantastic time. You know, back in March of 2021, everyone was going crazy on the OMI token. I was like, I think the collectibles are undervalued because OMI just went like 2000x. Look at the collectibles. They haven't even increased in price. In fact, the Todd McFarlane is still in the store. Well, then, you know, what was it? January, the next year, the collectibles went absolutely crazy. And now they've scaled way, way back. So we're in this bear market for the collectibles, for the token as well. What collectibles on the VeVe app are on your mind that you're like, oh my gosh, some of the most undervalued gems that I'm trying to buy?
So I got to ask this question through a private DM on Twitter too. Like what collectibles am I looking at if I had just like $1,000 and I was trying to look at the market and look again. This is not financial advice. This is just the things that I am looking at there. Um, there's a couple things I think if I'm looking at ROI. I think FAs are very important in this space. Um, and so I look at who are the most popular characters out there right now, and also who are the most popular up and coming characters, right? Because we also got to consider that in 20, 30 years, like sure, I'm still going to be investing, but there's also going to be like those kids that are kids right now that are going to be growing up that are going to be, in the middle of their careers that are going to have a lot of extra money, right, to spend on things. And so for me, one of the biggest things I think are comics. I'm looking at some of the FAs that have dropped. There's a lot of like, the Spider-Man comic, the Marvel #1 comic, like those. The Marvel #1 is at $35, $30 right now, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. But the funny thing is that I don't think the 60,000 ends up being a lot. If VeVe starts to attract more users, and I think it will. I think that Marvel partnering with VeVe, they're starting to do a few things where Marvel is really trying to consolidate. And there's going to be those digital collectibles that people just want to read the comic. They just want to read the comic, and so they'll buy it. They'll buy it for $5, $2, whatever, or pay for the Marvel Unlimited, and they can read whatever comic book they want. But then there's the collectors out there, and once they find digital collecting and understanding that, like, hey, I can collect something that's not going to deteriorate, that I don't have to worry about it getting stolen, that my mom's not going to throw it away, or my spouse is going to throw it away if I get divorced, or like it's going to get burned in a fire. Like, there's so many things. So I think some of the FAs of the digital collectibles, but I think Spider-Man is pretty undervalued right now. And again, like the actual 3D collectible, not just like the secret rare, but even just the common, right, which is his most famous pose.
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you're looking at it from two different collecting standpoints, Spider-Man is still one of the most popular superheroes in the world. So there's that. It's the first Spider-Man on the blockchain, but then it's also Marvel's first NFT on the blockchain. I think those two combined, that is going to bring significant, like that has significant power when people are looking about collectability and looking back in time and being like, okay, like what are the first and what's important there? I think that carries so much weight, right? And so like there's potential there, and then Boba Fett, and you and I, Rain, we talk about Boba Fett quite a bit. I mean, even the animated one, which I'm not a big fan of the animation necessarily. It would have been awesome if he would have shot a rocket from his rocket launcher backpack, but even that's like $80, and I just think that he's significantly undervalued. And then I do think that the lightsabers, all of them, are pretty undervalued. I do think that there is going to be some sort of utility, but even if there isn't utility there, except for being able to like turn them off and on in AR, with the advent and the progression of the AR goggles, I think that will be pretty cool to use there. And there's a statistic out there, and I'm going to look it up real quick, but I believe that Disney sells approximately 10 million lightsabers a year. Lightsabers are massive. Everyone loves lightsabers. And so I know that there's a lot of them on the platform, but people will spend $150, $300 on like a custom lightsaber. You don't think that they'd be able to do that, like, or spend that much for one that they could use in AR? I don't know. Something to think about there. But what about you, Rain? What are some of the ones that you're looking at?
I did just pick up more Boba Fett, more Darth Vader. What else did I get? I did get a secret rare Thanos. We got a comment asking for a price prediction of when the Warrior Thanos comes out. That's a great question. I have no idea. I really kind of ignore the initial prices now and just think, what is the long term? Because sometimes they shoot up and sometimes they don't. And so I don't really pay attention to those early days. I know that you do. usually have tracked pretty well that. But I think that one, we don't know its price, but that one is pretty big because the whole build up to Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet, I think will do well. But I think it's all going to be in the hype right now. And I like to wait till the hype simmers before I buy anything. Like, I'm not touching the Luke Skywalker right now. Why? There's way too much hype about it. Wait till some other thing takes center stage and people are selling their Luke Skywalkers to get whatever is the next new thing. So like Darth Vader was the new thing, but that was like, what, 12 months ago or something. And so people are forgetting about him. And that's when I like to buy, when the massive thing that's going to change the world hasn't yet changed it. And people are forgetting about it because the new thing. And so then they dump their Darth Vader at, a loss of 80%. And they're dumping it into my hands. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I like low prices. Somebody was selling their Cardano to me at 3 cents, and they're telling some story about how they could have been rich. Yes, they could have been. Thank you for selling it to me at 3 cents. My grandchildren will thank you too. So somebody selling the Darth Vaders at these prices. So thank you. Boba Fett, I'm a big fan of, just because it just comes back to toy collecting. And, I wasn't into toy collecting, but I had a friend that super was. And, so then I started to look at the returns on some of the stuff he was getting. I was just like, that's crazy. What? I didn't know recent toys appreciated. I thought, well, yeah, if you had the Darth Vader from forever ago and didn't touch it. So then I was like, what characters do the best? And it was Boba Fett and Darth Vader. It was not even close. Luke Skywalker was nowhere to be found on that. Now, maybe that changes, because one of the things that I think makes digital collectibles special is that they will go worldwide. So a lot of what we saw was a lot of buying within the US and Canada, in a little bit other countries for these actual physical collectibles. What is a guy in the Philippines going to do with a Darth Vader in its original packaging, right? They're not going to buy it. They're not going to have it shipped to them. They can't even trust the shipping system will even get it to them. So there's no market for these outside the US because they don't have enough faith in the shipping system that will actually arrive. It is getting a lot better to Europe that you can have it secured. But even South and Central America, the item might get taken out of the box. And so those aren't true markets for physical collectibles. Digital collectibles, however, will change that. And there are fan bases for this. So like you said, there's a lot, and I think there's like 60,000 editions of Marvel #1 or something. But when you start opening up to the world, that's a very small number. That's a very small number. I mean, Bored Apes had 10,000 mints, and look at what the price went. And that became big just in the US and Europe, and the price went to a $300,000 floor for a JPEG that had some utility. You could get access to the Discord, or really the bigger utility was you could flex the profile pic on Twitter. But I think some of these digital collectibles will have that utility, maybe even that social flex. And maybe if we're lucky, it ends up being as big. It's like, oh my gosh, you have whatever one is the really big one, and maybe it's Todd McFarlane Batman. You have number 1576. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I don't know. The downside of that being the case is that they all look the same, whereas the Bored Apes did have some differentiation, which made it a little bit better for like a cover picture as your profile pic. But these collectibles probably will have social flex, and that's really what drives the price. I mean, why is it that people will pay so much for a Donnie? Did you even know what Donnie was before VeVe? Because I didn't. Why would people pay so much for a Donnie? Scarcity, social flex, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Veblen good of just, I have excess money, and look how much excess money I have that I can afford to buy this cartoon horse for $50,000 or 20,000. Like, I know the whole bot thing in the gyms, but still, it was still a substantial amount. And I think that's going to happen. And one thing that we really haven't talked about that I think is really important. I mean, I brought it up a little bit, but is the AR VR. And it's funny because I see all these people tweeting, they're like, Apple's not going to pump your bags. And I'm like, no, like, I don't think that all of my collectibles, there was a little bit of a bump, like in my vault values over the last week, right? But I think it's a longer term thing that VeVe already has that tech with the AR and VR. And I'm excited. I'm actually excited for VeVe to integrate their app like into the Provision Apple headset and to see that, like, that's really exciting. I already do that. And dude, I've tweeted out multiple times how my son who's 2 years old, when he's when I'm trying to change him into his pajamas or something like that, and he's trying to stall, but like he's just like, I want to see Spider-Man. I want to see Spider-Man. He loves me showing like Spider-Man in the animation, and he also loves Oscar the Grouch and Cookie Monster. He loves those. That's another one that I actually have picked up. Like I have one of each. I need to buy some more because I think that those are severely undervalued long term, as it's just something that's so awesome, and it's something that's nostalgic for me, but it's something that even my kids have started to grow up and play with there. But yeah, I just think that there's so much combining here with VeVe. I'm extremely bullish, and it's funny just to see people got in crypto and they wanted these crazy gains, and there are crazy gains to be had. And so they saw some projects that pumped crazy, and then VeVe didn't. But for me, VeVe is a long-term play, and they're building it that way. And they've made mistakes. It's been frustrated. I have purchased things off of the comments of some of the founders that haven't been fulfilled yet, or have been delayed, or were, they were fulfilled, but it took a lot longer than they said they would. I'm there with everyone with those frustrations. But again, it's that investor mindset that I can push away those emotions and say, does this still make sense longer term? And for me, I've started to see them progress. Because remember, I had talked about how concerned I was in like February and into March, being like, if I don't start to see some progress, I'm going to stop buying OMI and VeVe collectibles by the end of June. I mean, we're starting to see this cadence of every couple of weeks, like there's things being rolled out. We've got the wait list that they've dropped. There was some minor glitches. I was a casualty of that glitch. I was waitlisted. I got authorized to do that blue and white VeVe logo, and then I couldn't buy it. I kept hitting buy. I tried refreshing. I did all of that, and I lost my chance at that, and that was pretty frustrating. But I'm excited. I'm excited for what that means overall. In that now they'll be able to start integrating the MCP points, right? And so there is this progression there, and things that they promised are coming to fruition, albeit much lengthier time than we were told.
Yeah, agreed. I was a victim of that too, and that sucked.
It did suck.
I was I was like, shoot, and I couldn't figure out how to buy. And I was like, fiddling around trying to figure it out, and my time expired, and I was like, crap. Oh well, darn it. I'm glad to see this wait list coming to fruition. I was just lucky enough to get waitlisted. Oh, didn't work out. Great. I'll go cry for a little bit. Nobody will feel too sorry for me, and I don't blame you for not feeling too sorry for me. I don't feel too sorry for me either. So like, there's lots of things that have worked out fine for me. I hope that a lot of you it worked out fine for. I know what it's like to be in your first bear market, and congratulations to you to being here and to be paying attention and to learning and researching. See a lot of comments about picking up more OMI, and we don't have a magic crystal ball to see the future. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. It's just the odds are really good. The patterns are really good, that the likelihood is strong, and that if the likelihood is strong and it does go that way, the returns are usually really strong. And I'm excited about that. I have a ton of OMI. I would like to buy a ton more. Maybe I'll be able to get to Jordan Reese levels, because 200 million, I like that number. I do like numbers that start with a B even better, but man, I'd have to massively free up some capital somehow to get to that number. Though it's a lot easier to obtain than it's been in a very long time. So yeah. That's great. What would it take to buy a billion OMI right now? What is it? Would it be like $56,000 or is
No, it's more than that. I like
$560,000?
yeah, about 560,000
All
for a
right.
billion only. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
560,000, and you can be an OMI billionaire too. We still got to do that song doctor stuff.
I know. As soon as you said that, I was like, crap. I gotta finish those lyrics. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. But I almost feel like I want to. You and I will have to discuss a little bit longer. Do we want to just release it during the bear market, or do we do it when OMI starts pumping?
Nah, let's do it during the bear market. Except that I'll be it'll be a while before I can get back to where you're at. So, but yeah, we'll do that in the bear market just so it's nice and fun. And when it goes way up, that all the people who listened at it and had fun with it, get a benefit and celebrate their own wins. Wanted to ask you another question real quick. So we talked about the tech upgrades. What are your thoughts on upcoming utility to VeVe?
Upcoming utility. Well, we are starting to see. It's really interesting. Why I'm still trying to work out in my mind why Disney has decided that they have to announce the utility beforehand. They can't just retroactively do that. I think that really damages long-term holders, because then everyone knows. They're like, oh, well, I'll just buy this. And we see this with the price all the time, right? Like we just saw it with the latest Marvel Mighty set with which, man, they did not look good. And I don't think it's VeVe's fault because there apparently are some actual physical collectibles that are just they look exactly like they do on VeVe. I don't know who signed off on those, but man, they did Guardians of the Galaxy dirty on those collectibles. Ugh, they are atrocious. But like Cosmo, that dog that was like 300 gems. You got up to 300 gems because everyone was planning on that airdrop. And then, once that happened, Rocket Raccoon and now Cosmo's at like $100. And I think Rocket Raccoon, I don't know what he's at now, but like might not even be, if you add up Rocket Raccoon and Cosmo, that it's even worth the $300 that you had to pay for Cosmo to get that set. But upcoming utility, I think there's two things. I do think that there are other IPs that are planning things that aren't announced, not just artists. And I'm excited to like see what happens there. But then VeVe, what I love about the VeVe logos is that at any time VeVe can add utility to any one of those. And so look, right now I don't own any of the VeVe logos, and I'm a little bit upset about that. I give Randy Chavez a really hard time because I was about to pull the trigger on the gold and silver logo when it was at 2.1K, but it was on this declining trend and people were kind of like undercutting each other. And I'm like, all right, in like a week, it's going to hit 1.7K and pull the trigger. And then Randy made a video on it, and then it's never gone below 2.1K again. And so like I didn't pull the trigger. But anyways, I do think that VeVe is going to start offering utility, obviously the gold and silver, but I think that there's the potential that they could start offering different types of utility for each different logo. So that's speculation, that's hearsay on my part, but that's something that like I'm going to collect that set just because of that. But on top of that, I do think that in the future with the VeVeverse, there's going to be gated access, token access, and that can be set up by individuals who are like, hey, if you want to see my house or my, Dr. Profit could say anyone who wants to see this, they have to own this collectible. People could build games in there and say, you have to own this token to even enter and to watch these games be played. I don't know. There's a lot going on there, but there's going to be, two things. Utility would be nice, but that's why I think it's important to collect the FAs, because even if there is no utility, just the collectability of the FA, I think long term will do well with the price. Where when you're buying into speculation, like that's where you can get wrecked. And I've gotten wrecked before on certain things where I started to speculate and I've had to take away my emotions and just think logically about things. But I buy a lot of FAs because I think that regardless of any upcoming utility, they will do well. But then some of the early VeVe logo IPs, I think that there's something coming with that, but that's just me. What about you, Rain?
Well, so I'm just patiently waiting. Right now, we're in a bear market. I'm liking what they're rolling out. Everyone's excited for the VeVe verse. I'm not. I'm extremely cautiously, mildly optimistic. And the reason is what is the VeVe verse really going to do? Is it going to be a metaverse that nobody's in? Probably, if they did a metaverse type idea, it would probably have more people than Decentraland and Sandbox. But what are you going to be able to do? Walk around and look at other people's stuff. You'll walk around, look at other people's stuff, and then be bored and stop using it. So that's not the utility I'm super excited for. Hopefully, they do an expanded version of um, the vault, which I think is where they're going, which I think will get more use. What would really get a ton of use, make it easy to share that on social media so other people could go right into your vault. That would help VeVe go much more viral. Why? The social flex utility increases. That's the only thing that would really get me excited, because then the social flex increases, right? Oh, you don't have to set your Todd McFarlane Batman as your profile pic where you can't distinguish it from anything else. You can set your vault and link to that, and people can go in it and walk around and see how you put your Todd McFarlane combined with everything else that's unique to you and what you're interested in. That's a big deal. I don't know if that's how it comes out. Maybe, talking to Reese, he said that's kind of their line of thinking, but kind of is like unclear to me. So we'll see. I think they're on track with getting some of the best intellectual property out there. I like the app. I like the improvements to the app. I like that we have a search bar. I like that the OMI. Well, I've been able to get crypto to gems for a while, and I just ran into a snag. I emailed the person today because I sent $100 to get more gems to buy more cool stuff that's discounted. I think I was trying to buy some more of the comics. I was trying to buy the first editions of Thor and Iron Man and Spider-Man 300. And so I was going to buy one of each of those, sent $100 transaction, and still haven't gotten credit for it. I've used it like 5 different times and went through flawlessly every time. I don't know why it didn't happen. Said it wasn't received in the limit. I sent it like 2 minutes after. Hadn't run into that problem before. Haven't heard from customer support other than the automated emails. So we'll see. Their app is pretty good. Continues to get better every day. I like the tech team behind it. I really like Reese. I like David Yu. I think he's amazing. Like a savage collector for forever. And so he knows how collectors think. And so I think he's a really good person to be directing where they're going with this. I think OMI and VeVe are going to create something special that perhaps in 10 or 20 years, people look back and they'll be like, what? You were around in the early days? That's so crazy. Yeah, I got in 2 years ago. We're like, cool. Come join me on my yacht, bro. Let's go for a spin. So Jordan Reese says, haha, catch me rain. Dude, yeah. We'll see about that. I am much more diversified. Much. And so sometimes diversification hurts because like I had a friend that didn't diversify and he went all in on Cardano. I only went about 1/5, if even that, into Cardano. And, so his portfolio, like Cardano ran early compared to everything else and went massively up. I had a bunch in Bitcoin because usually Bitcoin runs up first and then other things. And Cardano ran at the same time Bitcoin did, but it ran at much, much higher multiples. So, he left me in the dust. And then my diversification caught up later. But for a while, man, I was like, oh, crap. But in the end, it worked out too. The diversification. Yeah.
Yeah, diversification for me, it helps my sanity because then certain tokens will pop at different times and you feel like you're getting some wins. Whereas, when you go all in on one project, like you got to be diehard. And I look massive respect to those because it's all or nothing. And like sometimes that goes to nothing. And people are like, yeah, well, I pitched my tent and like I made my place and like lied in my bed, right? And I'm going to own that. But then if they're right and when they're right, man, like that goes crazy. But for me, the diversification is so big. It's tough to see other projects like pumping while it's like wow. And I saw that I see that in the VV community sometimes, right? Like when other tokens were pumping, they're like, well, why is Omi doing nothing? It's dead. And there's all these memes, people, the little stick figure poking Omi. It's funny. Shout out to a lot of the meme makers out there. That keeps me going as well. But for me, diversification I think is key, which means that yeah, like if I am right about Omi, which I think I am, I'll do very well. But not as good as I could be if I was the Jordan Riz. But at the same time, if Omi for whatever reason doesn't do what I think it's going to do, there's other projects that I have there too. But I'm still very into OMI and VeVe, and I do think it'll go well. But I do like that diversification strategy. Um, One thing, Rain, like I wanted to talk about a little bit too, was, and I know that this has kind of been passed a little bit, but Paul Barron's comments in his videos there. Um, I was very disappointed, and it's funny how quickly he turned, and I think that there's some reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I mean, even in like March, right, with the silver, I think it was March where they had the platinum moments. You had the FA Minnie Mouse, right? If you don't count the lenticular card, but like he was just like, oh, this is like amazing. He was stoked on the RoboCop. A lot of VB fan was all excited that Paul Barron was all bullish on it, and then I have to give him a shout out. One of the first videos they did where they did a real analysis of all of the concerns that they had with all of the delays and the things that had been promised and where that was going. I thought it was a great video. I thought it was a great shout, like call out to say, hey, here's the things you promised. Here's our concerns. I thought it was good. And in fact, like I don't know if it was VeVe or a Comey, but one like either the VeVe or a Comey account was actually like, hey, appreciate like the real talk or something along those lines, right?
Yep.
But then I don't know if that kind of just like emboldened him to where he's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, like I got all of this attention kind of trashing BB. I'm going to do it some more. And then he went like overboard on it, right? Where he did this video where he was like, okay, these top 10 like metaverse projects. And like he had all of these different like variables as like, like what added up to community and technology and like all of these things and like some of these platforms that he was listing like above VV, I mean like anyone who knew anything about the space was like, this is absolutely bonkers wrong, like it's so bad, like it's laughable. And then people started to question a couple things, like was he getting paid? Because some of the projects that he was listing above VV were like Animoca, invested by Animoca, whether like brands that Animoca had invested in, right? And so that they thought that was weird. And then you have Paul Barron saying that like and he says, hey, I thought it was like I was joking, it was taken out of context. I watched that whole section. I don't know how you can take it out of context, man. Like, but he basically was like, is VV dead? Ha ha ha. Yeah, VV's dead. And even he's being sarcastic. Like he then went on and talked more about VV being dead, right? And he got a lot of pushback from that, only because like he was sitting there saying that, I mean, he made a video about cryptoys. And don't get me wrong, I bought several cryptoys. When I went to NFT NYC, I actually ran into one of their ambassadors, Steph Sudo. Shout out to her. She's awesome, great energy. And she interviewed me, and like I didn't know anything about cryptoys. And then she showed me the cryptoys platform, showed me the animation. I was like, this is really cool. I love the animation. She said that they were trying to be like VV. They loved VV, right? Which I thought it was great that they were doing that. But here you have Paul Barron saying that cryptoys is everything that they've been waiting for. And it's like, wait a second, they don't even have a marketplace. There's no interoperability, right? The community isn't there. All of these things that like like, VeVe has, like, okay, VeVe doesn't have interoperability either, but like there's two things. So VeVe was greater in several areas than Cryptoys, and then some of the things that Cryptoys didn't have, VeVe didn't have either. So it's like, how in the world can you be trashing VeVe and then say Cryptoys is everything that you've been waiting for? And just like these are all just facts. But when I look at that objectively, right, I'm saying something isn't adding up there, and that it makes him look like either he hasn't done his research or something's off, because what a terrible comparison. And so, yeah, and he's gotten a lot of flack from that, and I haven't seen any other videos that he's made since then about VeVe. He hasn't come out and apologized that, which I think would go a long way. And it's just saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I was just emotionally frustrated about some of this thing, and my analysis wasn't on point. But wow, crazy.
Yeah. See, one of the things I like about Paul Barron, he's on the analytical side. I tend towards the analytical side. His background is actually media production. He has one of the best produced channels. Like, his background in his studio is awesome. It just is absolutely incredible. He's done a phenomenal job, runs a very professional ship. Incredible. I catch a lot of his episodes, particularly, like, he's one of the few that does a lot of interviews. I like interviews because I like to see the team and hear from them. And he's one of the biggest voices that does many of the best interviews, and I appreciate that from him. Disappointed with how things aren't adding up to me on his stance on VeVe. I was a little bit surprised when he was a big VeVe fan, but he does have like a sentiment indicator, which led him to understand that VeVe has a special community that is special in the crypto space. That's part of what I liked about it, and I've really liked about it, and I still like about it. Cardano had created something magical like that too, and it is rare and somewhat, and it's not truly magical, but it's just extremely rare in the crypto space. So Cardano has super tight-knit community, and they did lose some of that fall off when, the FUDing and everything, some of that Cardano community gave up on it, much like what's happening here. But the Cardano community, or excuse me, the OMI community is special too, much like what I saw in the Cardano community. And that, like, I was talking to the founder of another competing platform, and I was like, they're like, I caught him at this conference and we were talking. I was like, well, in order to be able to compete with them, you have to figure out how to get dozens of content creators creating content on your project that you're not even paying for, because that's what OMI did, right? So you've seen some of these other platforms come in and try to steal away their content creators by buying them, and just realize that anybody you're going to get that way, like, it just isn't really going to work. Something came together special about how OMI came together, that yes, the team could squander that. And I felt like they did, and they took advantage of that some without realizing how special that was. And part of the reason some of that went away is mistakes that were set in motion 18 months ago and 2 years ago, when they didn't really invest in their tech team processes. And then everything was taking so long, which squandered some of that, but just some of that. And Cardano squandered some of that too. And yet Cardano went 200x from the bottom. So do I think OMI has a chance? I think OMI has an amazing chance. And I think VeVe has an amazing chance. And they recognized their mistake. Yes, later than we all wanted, but they recognized it. And I think we're seeing the fruits of how their tech team has come together. We're seeing things released, and in this kind of production schedule we should want. And maybe Paul just lost hope. I think he relies too much on his sentiment indicator, which will lead him back to VeVe, because, he's seeing the scores go down on his sentiment indicator. So he's like, oh no, this is going bad. Well, when you understand the whole picture, it's because they didn't make these tech updates soon enough to fix their team. And so there's this big lag between things and them changing that around. And then when things start happening, What I'm saying is he's probably selling at the bottom, like so many people do, only to buy back in later higher if he's looking at his sentiment indicator and all of a sudden OMI swings way up on it again. He's like, oh, I knew all along. Yeah.
That rain, that is going to happen. And I just want to, I want to make this announcement publicly so that everyone, like, we will look back on this. I wish I could be like, remind me of this in 6 months, right? That tweet. But you're going to get some of these VV YouTubers that are kind of trash talking VeVe now, that when VeVe comes back and it starts going strong, they're going to be like, I'm back and I never gave up, like, because it's not about actually being right. It's about getting the views, right? And so but that's what kills me when people watch some of these influencers, right? And they're like, they have the biggest channels, they must know what they're talking about. And that's such a flawed thought process there. But you are going to see a lot of people who are just like, I'm back and I'm more bullish than ever. And it's like, yeah. And like, you wrecked a lot of people, through that sentiment. And look, maybe not. Like, again, everyone has to make their own investment decisions. You can listen to all these people, but I just have to say that will happen. You're going to get these people who are going to say, I always knew. And they'll point back to their earlier videos where they were bullish, probably delete their bearish videos, right? And see, like, oh, hey, I was fine. But the other thing I wanted to point out, and I can't fault Paul for this. I know that he got really upset when VeVe, they, with the mint, someone was able to, when they were doing the burn mechanism, or not the burn, but where basically if they held the platinum moment, maybe it was a burn. Was it a burn? But they could get the poster, basically, right? That the Dumbo poster or whatever. But anyway, someone got like a sub 40 poster, right? And VeVe took that back out of their account. And I know that there was a lot of people who are pretty upset about that. And they're like, that's not the Web3 ethos type thing, right? That self custody. And I can't fault him for that. I think that I feel like there probably was a way that VeVe could have just allowed those people to have it. Maybe not, but like, I don't know what the contracts say, but could they have given them a different sub 40 mint or something? I don't think that VeVe handled that very well, to be honest. But they're going to make mistakes. All companies make mistakes, and that's what I think. This is what I love about VeVe. And you touched on this, Rain, a little bit, but I'm going to kind of throw it in a different light. Is that any project, and this is any project, where you can get enough emotion, whether they love it or they hate it, but they can't leave it alone. I don't see, I hate HRO spaces, HROs going to zero. I don't see even the backhouse spaces that, backhouse are going to zero. There aren't spaces like that. I love backhouse, no problem with HRO, right? But like, the fact that there is such passion there, there's something of substance behind a project that can garner that type of emotion. And when you talk about the Cardano community, I really didn't get it until I went to NFT NYC with you like a year ago. And we went to one of those Cardano parties, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, these guys are just like all about, I was like, I felt like I was, in comparison to like going to DCOM, right? And it was all these VeVe folk. It was like the same thing with Cardano. And man, those communities are very powerful. And I think that those are the types of projects that really can succeed. And so that's why, like you said, you see these other companies trying to target the VeVe community and get them on board. And that's just how powerful it is. And so that's what also makes me very bullish about VeVe in and of itself, is just the emotion that it evokes from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has so many lovers and haters, right? So Quid would die to have, 1/10 as many haters, because the worst is being indifferent, and a lot of indifference towards Quid or some of the other projects, right? So VeVe's got a massive head start. Let's hope they don't squander it. I think they're on an amazing track to leverage it now. I got real frustrated about 3 months ago, and I was like, F this. They're not making these changes fast enough, and frustrated. I was concerned that maybe somebody involved with the team maybe was high conflict, and maybe there still is. I don't know. I don't know well enough, but I don't think David Yu is, and I don't think Reese is, and those are the only two I've really been able to talk to much. Alex G, he's pretty straightforward, says exactly what he thinks, and I like that about him. So not him either. So, and maybe there isn't one, but I was just concerned with the multiple lawsuits with whatever Ben and just what was going on there. I think Ben is definitely a high conflict personality. If I had to guess, and it's a raw guess, never spoken to him, never met him in real life, but yeah, high conflict people can really slow down a project and slow down their growth until it happens. Like Cardano had to get rid of that one guy who was just slowing down their growth, and that set everything in a tailspin, the lawsuits about that. And it just reminds me so much of Cardano in March of 2020. We'll see. Will it go 100 or 200x from these lows? Are we at the lows? Is it going to go further? I don't know. Chart looks decent. I mean, really, it can. Look how it's holding this line right here. Let me share that. Where it's really holding this line. Now, it might break below it, and it hasn't quite really hit it strongly. This may be the bottom. Actually, the bottom may already be in, and it came back near that, and it's having a hard time even hitting where it went before. Maybe ready to run. At some point, it's probably going to break to the upside of this bigger channel. And usually it doesn't wait till the very, very end. It usually preempts it. So chances are this breaks higher. Could break lower, but the chances are it breaks higher out of this. Looking forward to where OMI goes. And, we'll see who's right. Let's see, is Rain right on this? In 3 years, we will all know. And we will know who understood, who had proper context, who had proper perspective, and who the hell didn't. And the funny thing is who the hell isn't even around now. Because what I saw is a lot of those people hating on Cardano that were like Tezos, they didn't even stick around for the following run. Or if they did, they just shut their mouth because they weren't saying, man, was I wrong on that. And some of the YouTubers just like moved on to the next thing, right? It was just, they were covering current sentiment, because that's how you grow your channel. And I could grow my channel so much bigger than it is now by covering current sentiment all the time. And I would make more money from YouTube. YouTube, I make almost nothing, and that's okay, because my goal wasn't massive income from YouTube. It would be nice to make something worthwhile out of it, but it wasn't really my goal. My goal was to be able to get good interviews. My goal was to be able to get better access to make better informed decisions, and that I would use the knowledge to share with my community, and my community hoped I could attract really smart people who thought about things analytically, and we could create a community that we could see more together. And I feel like that's absolutely happened. So those that join our Telegram is fantastic. We frequently purge any scammers that show up. If somebody's messaging you from the group, asking you to invest in anything, it's just a scammer. They find Telegram groups too, and they go in those. Let us know, and we'll boot them. And then we have a Discord that has a paywall through Patreon to get there, and no scammers have shown up in that, because last thing scammers do is pay any kind of fee to join a group. They only join the free ones. So, Doctor, fun chatting with you. We'll have to do this more often. Maybe on Sundays would be a good day for this.
Yeah, that could work out. It was fun when you reached out. I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to you in way too long, and gotten on and just chat about all this stuff. So, I appreciate you, Rain. I love those thoughts, and appreciate everyone who stayed through the whole chat, and the comments and the questions. Look, you guys are still here. You're still going strong, and that says something about your conviction, but also your mental fortitude, right? When so many people have left, not just VeVe, but like the space in general, right? They're just like, I'm out of here. Yep. I think that in crypto or in investing, it's those people who have that conviction that do the research and then make those decisions. And not all of them are going to be right, but overall, like when they're convicted like that, the chances of their success are a lot higher.
Yeah, somebody mentioned earlier about conviction and patience, and they're right about the patience. They're also right on the conviction. I would just add in a caveat to the conviction. Conviction is something substantive that it has to make sense. There's a lot of people convicted in Pepe coin right now. And look, Pepe coin had its days. There's no utility to it. I don't know why, unless Elon Musk starts tweeting about it, why it could even continue. And yet they have conviction. But I think he meant like conviction, but on something worth being convicted on and convicted about. And I'm sure that's what he meant. So I just wanted to clarify on that. Let's see if I had any other thoughts. So still this last Wednesday, didn't do the video with Paul. That was my fault. I didn't have internet where I'm going to be at the next few months. So after that, or for the next few months, basically I'll only be available Sundays and Wednesday morning. I'm going to continue doing that with Paul. It's just such a good video. I love hearing Paul's views on it. Paul's got a price analysis background that goes 30 years. And the truth is most people in crypto space have no background in investment that goes back 30 years. And so it's just his insights are just so helpful. He has like a stock and like commodities and looking at charts for 30 years, which is amazing. My own investment background only goes back 25 years. And his is chart specific for 30 years. It's just phenomenal to hear his insights. I know those of you who catch it absolutely love that episode. I love it too. Paul is just a straight shooter. He says it like it is. Honest as the day is long. I love it. So thank you all for joining us. And Dr. Stuff would like to do this. Maybe we can set up something recurring on Sundays. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll chat more about it offline.
Cool. All right, everyone. This is our wrap. I don't have my teleprompter here, and my prompter keeps me like on my little opening and stuff. So that probably be just mediocre for the coming months. And I think you'll forgive me for that. You'll be okay with it. But I do still have access to my wrap. So here you go.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit bad before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, make the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.